Recording?
That's when we'll take our
All right.
break.
Let's get started then. Welcome to Coffees and Computers, powered and brewed by IUI students. We're here to talk about all things tech, sharing your thoughts and the impacts that we have here in our school. We're going to start this series called Brewing Brilliance. So all this series is about is related news on future of IUI, with all the re-merger, and also future topics about any other school, including here at the School of Luddy. We have here, if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hi, my name is Roman Moreno. I'm a current junior at IU Indianapolis. I'm majoring in informatics, minor in political science. I'm currently one of the Latino outreach ambassadors for the undergraduate ambassador program, as well as the lead ambassador managing the program as well.
My name is Kaveen. I'm a senior studying informatics, and I'm also doing the accelerated master's program for human-computer interaction. And I'm also an undergraduate ambassador, and I am a co-founder of Coffee and Computers podcast.
The founder.
Yeah, co-founder.
And I'm Jojo. I am majoring in artificial intelligence, and I'm also an undergrad ambassador as well. So for our very special guest for this first episode, I'm really excited to announce this. It's crazy how we even have you here in the first place, and I'm so excited and I'm so grateful to have you here. Welcome, Joanna. She is the Dean of Luddy. Anyone round of applause?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
If you want to introduce yourself, give yourself
Sure.
a little introduction.
Sure. My name is Joanna Millunchick. And so lots of people look at my name and they're just like, how do you pronounce that? So just think of million chicks. So Millunchick, Joanna Millunchick. Yeah.
See, I tried to pronounce it, and then everyone thought I pronounced it wrong. They were thinking like I was being hurtful whenever I said your last name. I'm like, no, that's how you say it.
How did you say it?
I said Millunchick. Did I say it right?
No, it's perfect. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, I'm
Exactly
always
right.
right.
You're already
Yeah.
there.
Like this.
You're already
Yeah.
there. Professional right there.
I'm already there. All right. To start things off, since this is Coffee and Computers, what do you like to drink? I heard, and
Yeah.
we're really disappointed by this, except for Kaveen, because he's also on the same page, that you don't drink coffee.
I don't. I very rarely drink coffee because I'm very picky with my coffee and it is rarely very good. So the only coffee that I'd like to drink is my husband's coffee. Most of the time though, I drink tea. I'm a tea drinker.
What's your favorite tea?
I don't have a favorite because I must drink, and I am not even exaggerating here. I drink I didn't bring it, but I have one of those big 32-ounce bottles. I drink about 4 of those of tea a day. So that's a lot of tea.
Oh my gosh.
And those
Right.
are all different kinds of tea?
Yeah.
Each one?
Right.
Yeah.
So, in the morning, I like to drink like English breakfast, but I also really love like Chinese black tea and oolong tea and green tea. And then there's like this really nice tea that is jasmine and rose petals that I like too. So yeah, all different kinds.
I should get into the tea world. But
Yeah,
this is
it's
Coffee and
really
Computers.
good. Yeah, it's
There's a lot of
really good.
variety.
There's a lot of
I think that's
variety.
what it is,
I think as well with coffee.
Well, it could just be caffeine with computers.
Oh.
And that's more
Ooh.
inclusive.
Yeah.
because
Or stay tuned for our spin-off podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tea and technology.
Tea,
Yeah, there
tea
you
and
go.
tablets. Tea and
Yeah.
tablets. Me and
There
the
you go.
vice
There you
president
go.
were talking about this. Like, we're gonna have a very interesting rivalry called Tea and Tablets, which is gonna be the off-brand of us.
Yeah, I'm going to go with technology though, right? Tea and technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
We can
Yeah.
do that. It's because we have computers in our name. So like
Oh, sure,
the
yeah.
opposite of computers is tablets, I guess. I
Is
don't
that
know.
the opposite?
Is it? What would be the?
I don't think that's how
I
it
think a
works.
piece of
I don't think-
paper, an abacus.
Oh.
Oh.
Apple juice and advocate. That could be like the elementary version. Of
Yeah,
our
the
podcast.
elementary.
Okay.
We'll,
Yeah.
we'll like
No, the
have like
analog. That's the analog version.
it's the high school podcast that some
Yeah, okay,
high school's
fair,
gonna
fair,
have.
Fair.
We gave you guys a name.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. How about we get started on some stuff?
Oh, we haven't started yet?
Let's get started on some questions.
Okay.
Don't get me nervous. You're getting me nervous here.
I'm
you know
sorry.
that.
I don't mean to.
Yeah, so let's start it off. If you can share with our listeners about your own journey of how you became the Dean of Luddy, how did you get first involved in the field of informatics as well?
Oh, yeah. Excellent question. So I was actually a physics undergrad. So I got my
Really?
degree in physics back in the day, 100 years ago. And then I went off and I did this research experience for undergrads at Notre Dame. And I just thought that doing research was the coolest thing, right? I was working in a lab. I won't tell you what year that was, but working with my professor and with the graduate students in the lab, we were doing crystal growth. And I had never really done crystal growth before. So like literally growing crystals, not like the kind of crystals like healing crystals. I'm talking like crystals like silicon and gallium arsenide, cadmium selenide, and things like that. So these are things that computer chips are made out of, right? And I liked that so much that I decided I wanted to go to graduate school. But I didn't want to do grad school for physics because I did not like high energy physics or particle physics. That was not my bag. But I really loved solid state physics. So my advisors suggested that I do material science. So I did a material science PhD in crystal growth. Did that for a couple of years. Did a postdoc at Sandia National Labs doing kind of like a combination. It was semiconductor physics at Sandia in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then I became a professor at Michigan, and I was there for almost 25 years. I was teaching material science courses. And, one of the reasons why I wanted to go to academia as opposed to going to industry was I thought it was really important for people like me to be in the classroom. Like I was one of the only women in my physics class, and that was kind of rough. And you'd go to conferences and things like that. And a game that I would play sometimes is, let's count the women in the room. And, it's better now, but it used to be like a room of 100 people and I could count all the women on one hand, so it is better now. But it wasn't that great. So I wanted to go back to academia so that I could be an existence proof. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm taking the long road.
No, go ahead.
To
Go
Dean,
ahead.
to
We want the
Deanship.
whole-
We've got the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, we
Yeah. And another thing that I was really interested in, so I've been interested in representation in science all along. I was doing these summer camps for middle-aged, middle school aged students. And I was doing like the material science of makeup. It sounds really trivial, but at the same time, you don't realize how much like engineering has to do with your everyday life. I mean, everything that you're interacting with on a daily basis, whether it's low tech or high tech, has been engineered to some degree. I mean, everything from like the furniture, obviously the microphone and the computers and the lights and everything, but also like our clothing and our cosmetics and antiperspirant and shampoos, they've all been engineered. And I'm not sure that people, and especially 12-year-old girls, always understood that. And I got some, pushback from faculty who thought that doing the material science of makeup was not very rigorous. But I was just like, whatever. We're just going to meet people where they are and do things that they like to do. And so sometimes it's like teaching them how to make nail polish. Other times it's helping them build a lava lamp. I mean, just do things and show them that it's not so difficult and that they can do it. And that's the important thing. So, yeah. So representation, important. Yes. Representation is important.
Representation
I
is
concur.
important.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
And then when there was a program also at Michigan when I was there called MSTEM Academies. So this is going to shock you, but at Michigan, in a lot of places, the typical engineer in engineering school was a white male from the suburbs. Does this shock you? I know.
Really?
Right. And this white male from the suburbs has parents that went to university, upper middle class, has, did really well in math and science classes, often because the schools that he went to have a lot of resources for students and have a lot of AP courses and things like that. So the program that I was involved in was for students who were not that person. So maybe they were from the Upper Peninsula, which is very, very rural. Maybe they were from the inner city. Maybe they were female. Maybe they were Black, So all of these things have been shown to be detrimental to the success of students. So I was the faculty director for a number of years for that program too. And I became really interested in trying to understand what it was that made students successful in college. And I started doing research in it because I was doing my material science research, growing crystals, trying to develop new optoelectronic devices, for solar cells and light emitting diodes and things like that. But then I was also really interested in why students participated in the things they do. What is it about students that made them compelled to participate in, say, I don't know, developing a podcast if it wasn't for a class, right? Yeah. See, I brought that back. Yeah. And that's actually when I got interested in informatics, because I could start looking at student data and doing analysis of the student data and creating surveys and analyzing those surveys, comparing it to large national surveys and things like that. So about, 10 years ago is when I got interested in that. I became the Associate Dean for Undergrad Ed at Michigan, did that for a couple of years through the pandemic. And I almost hate to admit it, but it was so interesting and so gratifying to be doing that kind of work through the pandemic because, I got to help students in a way that, I couldn't really help them in the classroom. And so figuring out solutions and finding out how to get all of the students who were studying abroad, how to get them home, that was it was a really important problem to deal with. Getting students laptops that were using the computers on campus, but now they were home. That was really important to do. Mm-hmm. And I found that I liked that kind of work. So when this job came along, I applied for it. And I was really impressed with this place because I've just been rambling for a minute here.
Go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, this is good. Talk about
good.
the place.
I used to talk all day. You realize I'm a professor, right? I am used to speaking for an hour at a time.
Yeah.
Right. And I haven't had a chance to do that in a while because I don't teach a class right now. So this is really awesome.
I think the opportunity of having an actual interview in comparison to a podcast is that you can go on and on and on.
And then you can just cut out the boring bits.
Depends on our editors.
Yeah. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. You can totally edit as much as you want.
Maybe me.
Okay, so what really impressed me about this place is that Indiana University, the engineering part isn't very old. And so that means that it doesn't have a lot of baggage associated with it, right? Mm. So most engineering schools were started about 200 years ago, right after the Civil War, had a lot of that era's societal mores attached to it. There is such a thing as absolute truth and science is absolutely pure, which, and math has a single answer. You set up an equation, there's an answer. But what people don't realize is that, who asks the question, who determines which questions are interesting, who determines which approaches are correct, those are privileged, right? Mm-hmm. Those are privilege. And that's how we've been doing engineering for a really long time, is that there is an answer, a single pure answer. But places like Indiana, we're really well known in the humanities and languages and philosophy and psychology and medicine and all of these things. And so through those disciplines, we learn about, the breadth of human knowledge and we think about different kinds of frameworks and different kinds of points of views and perspectives and so forth. And so because, technology is so new to IU, we can think about technology and STEM completely differently. We can take this more global approach rather than taking a very distinct, very narrow Western point of view. And we can take a larger global humanistic point of view of technology and how technology impacts society. And that to me is incredibly exciting. So that's why I'm here.
I think, yeah, that's a lot of the reason that I am also here is kind of like the new part. Like the Luddy School here, I think, is just about like 20 years old.
Yeah.
Which so am I. And also, like you were talking about, the humanistic aspect, and how can we design technology to make it easier to use for all people? And yeah, that's really what I'm interested in studying here.
That is so great. How did you find out about Luddy?
Yeah, so I was like,
the roles have switched.
Yeah.
well, I'm also an ambassador, so I'm trained for this question.
No,
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm happy. That makes me very happy.
Yeah. So I'm from out of state, so it's even more so like unlikely that I would find Luddy. But I did a summer program at the Milwaukee School of Engineering, and they had a user experience program. So I first discovered the concept of UX there, and so then I got back. This was in high school, and the next summer we had the opportunity to go again and to do a summer experience there. So that second time I chose to do a focus camp on UX itself. And after that, I pretty much knew, like, okay, this is pretty interesting, so I want to explore that more. So then when I was applying to colleges, I was looking at places that had informatics programs.
Right.
And I think our school is like one of the first informatics schools. So that's how I found here.
Well, it is the first informatics school.
Yeah.
A lot of other schools came out of library sciences, like library and information sciences, and just became iSchools. But we're the first one that actually, we are informatics.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And part of the allure to it was, it's new. Like you have all these other industries where, like centuries old, but informatics is like relatively new and the industry is still being shaped today. Yep. So I also thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, new but not, right? I mean, because
it's evolved.
Yeah, because if you think about like information, we've been dealing with information for millennia, right? And we've been using technologies to archive information for millennia. Books are a technology, right? So, it is new on the one hand, but it's also really old and fundamental to the human experience, which I think is really cool.
Yeah,
it's evolved to where it has its own like niche, because it used to come from like human factors engineering or ergonomics or stuff like that. So I'm glad it has its own space. And
and I think it like for sure like leaves room for like exploration when it comes to it, because like with that emphasis that you had like on research, like it really does make me wonder like how in the next 20 to 30 years like where exactly the school will be at, just because like my kind of history with like informatics and the way kind of like it's impacted like my life, I feel like it's really revolved around like the compliance issues that comes with it, data privacy. Like I'm more on the legal side of it.
Sure.
So and like the legal system in itself is like really old, and it's it really revolves and complex and is not as cutthroat as people make it out to be. And I think being able to have that place within Luddy, to have that kind of certification to make me think about it, and that sort of humanistic aspect has been incredibly like rewarding.
Yeah.
And I think it just like it gives like a lot of like our students, and I kind of think about it as like I'm nearing my time here at the school, as like I'm applying for like law school or maybe going into like public administration. Like it does leave, I feel like, our students prepared.
Yeah,
and
it really does.
I think that's like the beauty that comes along with it for sure.
Well, so I'm going to plug some of our programs. So
Let's
let's plug the programs. So there's a master's down in Bloomington, cybersecurity with, so it's between Luddy and the Maurer Law School and the Kelley Business School. And so this is a master's program in cybersecurity and deals with exactly what you're talking about. So it's not just about data privacy, but it's also, the whole 9 yards. And I love what you're saying about like bringing all of these topics together. It just makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like we're bridging like new ways to communicate about the information that is presented to us.
That's right.
Especially like with the introduction like of artificial intelligence, like in the past 2 years, like that in itself has bridged like new information for not only like our students in informatics, but also like in our other programs that are offered here, like in Indianapolis, like media arts and science and like stuff like that. Like I never would have expected to see the impact of artificial intelligence in those really creative fields. Like
Yeah.
it's quite interesting to really think about for sure.
But AI's been around for a really long time. I mean, so
Yeah.
like if you think about it, spell check is kind of a natural. It's a large language model in a way, right?
Yeah, I think in that perspective, that AI was everywhere, and it's actually true. Is that we never really distincted or gave it the name of AI because we didn't really have a name back then up until recently. And I think that's amazing how AI is opening to the world, and that's why I'm majoring it. I'm majoring in artificial intelligence. I'm gonna plug it up right there, right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible how it first it actually even became a major. Whenever I was first looking into like what I'm majoring in, because I'm mostly here in IUPUI for my family, but like I also love the school very much, and I was finding a major, and then I saw that artificial intelligence, and I'm like, that's very, very broad. And I feel like in the near future, it's going to be very broad because there's so much specializations that come to AI and how much it's like evolving to every little part in our lives, not just in technology, but in like other majors too, like architecture, business, and just everything. I feel like AI it's just going to be a broad statement of what is going to come. I think very much like technology.
Yeah. But what's an AI in that context? Like, what does that even mean? Make an AI. What does that mean?
It's just making a coding, and I think that's the broad statement of like what's an AI. It's just basically, what you want it to be. Like doing it for you. I guess is the simplest way of putting it forward. I think with this generation of ChatGPT, it's very scarce, and I think that it created a lot of like scars in AI and what AI is going to be in the future. But then again, it opens opportunities of like what we can do, it gives like, you don't have to do this process, so we can focus more on like the other process in the future. And I feel like that's the thing that a lot of, I think, education doesn't understand about. Very much like a calculator, people saw it as a very like distinct, like, hey, this is going to kill math, or this is going to like ruin students' brains. But it actually gives us the opportunity to, push forward mostly, saying like, hey, we have a calculator. We could do faster calculations. We could do more. And
more realistic calculations.
Sure. And I think that's what AI can do. It's not just like, oh, it's going to rot our brains, but it's going to like push our brains to do even further calculations than what AI can do.
Yeah, no, I agree with your premise here entirely. I mean, if I can use ChatGPT to like write a bunch of emails for me, oh my God, I'm totally going to do that so that I can free my time to do something else, right?
Yeah.
That I can do something really creative. And so like all of these boring rote kind of things, totally use the AI for it. I completely agree with that. But it does bring a challenge to faculty, like how are you going to engage with AI in the classroom, right? Because the students are going to use it. And the question is like, you have to harness it for good. How can you get students to look at the AI output and determine whether or not it's doing what you think it should be doing? Is it good? Is it factual? I mean, all of those things, assessing it critically, that's the important thing.
Yeah. And I feel like that's actually like the way we should go forward with this, because a lot of classes at the moment are like rejecting AI as a like ruiner of education, or as the destroyer of education and rotting our students' brains. And for me, I find it like, okay, why don't we accept it and then figure out something that we can do with it? And I feel like that's the future with AI, that, it's going to be there. You can't make it go away. Just like technology itself. But what can we do to adapt? And I feel like that's the thing that we do with humans. We adapt to circumstances that's out of our control. And I feel like AI is part of that. It's just how to adapt it. And I feel like with AI now implicated is that what more can we do? Making progress that like, okay, we can use AI for this stuff, but you got to learn how to use it. You got to know what you're doing to do AI. And I feel like making curriculums, I wouldn't say more difficult, but at least more interactive with AI to create even like better stuff. I feel like that's a better way to go forward with this, just finding a way to adapt, finding a way to have AI not just, subdue our skills, but actually like blossom and have more skills through it.
So there's this really great analogy. So this sort of thing has been happening in, our society, to humans for millennia. So this story is particularly appropriate to us because it's the story of the Luddites. So do you know the story of the Luddites?
I do not.
Do you know what a Luddite is? Like, what's a Luddite? If I say...
Someone who doesn't like to or avoids using technology.
Right. Isn't that hilarious? So very
It's so
ironic.
canny.
Yeah, no, it's so very ironic, actually. So where this came from is from the weaving industry. So it used to be that back in the day, people used to weave at home, so, like Sleeping Beauty, they'd have you'd spin thread and everything, and then you can weave at home. Lots of people did that, so they were weaving by hand, they were weaving at home. And then eventually what happened is someone came up with an automated weaving machine, and the weavers were annoyed because, what they thought was that the product was cheaper, was inferior, and now they couldn't do it at home. They had to go to factories. It was also dangerous because those looms were pretty dangerous at the time. And so it was some guy named, I don't remember his first name. Let's call him Bob Ludd.
Yeah.
Let's pretend it's Bob Ludd.
Bob Ludd.
Would go in and destroy the machines, just
like a Robin Hood type thing.
Yeah, it was totally like Robin Hood kind of thing. Like go in there and destroy the machine. It was the same era, actually. And so, people who followed him were called the Luddites. And there would be riots where people would come, the Luddites would come into a factory and destroy all the machines. And it was a commentary and a fear of people losing their livelihood, and, they did, because we don't make fabric that way anymore. We make them using looms in factories.
So Bob Ludd? Was it Bob?
No, it's actually Ned Ludd. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Ned. Close.
Ned.
3 letters.
Three letters.
Yeah.
Close. They're from the same generation. I mean,
sure.
Names are there. Ned.
We
Bob,
figured it out during
Billy
the break.
Bob, Billy Bob, Charles. Charles is generational. All right, continuing forward, I think we have some other questions that we can get into that's more related to the school and the split as well. If you guys want to start it off with those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess from me, like the state of Indiana is pretty influential when it comes to public education and what exactly those metrics should be looking like. How do you feel like you've navigated to try to almost compromise, with some of the stuff they want, but the goals and aspirations that you have for the school as well?
Great question. Not sure how to answer it. So let me stall for a minute while I think. Well, okay. So here's the thing. When I started here, I had no inkling about, the separation between within IUPUI. So that was something that didn't even occur to me when I was here. And about a month into my job, it was like, oh, surprise. We're like, oh, okay. So, but the thing is, though, is whenever something big like that happens, you have to think of it about as in terms of the opportunities. So the opportunities here are immense, right? So with our colleagues, doing their own thing, we now are free to do what we think is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so bringing computer science to the school, I mean, what a huge opportunity to get Indy and Bloomington working together a lot more closely than they ever have. So it's just amazing. The opportunities are just astonishing.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Not at all.
With the going forward with Indianapolis and Bloomington splitting into one. What's your goal with the whole one name, one school? I don't want to sound very how would I say this? threatening, but like
You,
even
you,
though we're
you,
like
you don't want to lose your
threatening,
identity,
pessimistic,
right?
yeah, it's not like losing our identity, but how do we keep keep each other being friends, even though I would say like we're kind of like our most competitive to each other when it comes to prospective students. But I just want to know what's the goal between one name, one school? Bloomington and in Indianapolis. Sharing the same name. What are some things that students could take advantage of in that perspective?
Well, okay, so we're not the only school that does this at IU. So the Kelly School is an excellent example. It has, the Kelly School is in both places. It's in Bloomington and it's also here in Indianapolis. And, down in Bloomington, it's like the largest major. Up here, though, Luddy's bigger than Kelly. I was surprised by that. Not by much, but we're a little bit bigger than Kelly. So that's an interesting little tidbit there. And then there's O'Neill. O'Neill is the other core school they're both, on both campuses as well. So one school, two places. So we're not the only ones that do this. And what's my goal? My goal is to make everything stronger, right? I think that a lot of what is fantastic about Indianapolis is, Indianapolis is smaller compared to Bloomington, and it has like this real can-do, scrappy kind of culture here that I find just really cool. And the MAS students, being part of Luddy, we don't have that down in Bloomington, so that really gives it a completely different vibe on campus.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It does
it's
give
so
it a
different.
unique personality for sure.
No, and I think that's fantastic. And I don't want to do anything to dilute that. And I also think that it opens us up to different possibilities. So because MAS is with us, like we can really think about leaning into virtual reality, because that's a technology and also an entertainment kind of media art, if you will. And so bringing those two things together, I mean, it's just so much can be done there. As far as being in Indianapolis and having, the stadium really close by, and Indy's really big on sports just in general. And so the sport analytics aspect, there's a lot of opportunity here. All of the opportunity that is present just because of the fact that we're in downtown Indy is also huge and a great feature of this campus. And so I want to maintain that and also give both campuses the opportunity to intermingle. Like perhaps there's an opportunity where, David Crandall, for instance, is an excellent professor, one of the best in the world around artificial intelligence. He also has a big focus on computer vision. Maybe you'd want to come down to Bloomington one summer and do a research project with him for the summer. I mean, that has always been possible, but it hasn't always been easy, and vice versa. Maybe there's someone down in Bloomington that wants to come up and work with someone in BHI who's also working with Regenstrief, say. And so like creating more opportunities for one another, that can't be bad. We're going to be stronger together than separate. The fact that we have, both like the big traditional Big Ten campus and like the really vibrant, scrappy downtown campus all in one school, that's really cool.
Yeah, I actually didn't think of it that way. I mean,
Yeah,
it's all about mindset, right? It's true. A lot of people were super suspicious when I came on board and they were just like, who is she and what is she doing? And go back to Bloomington. I mean, no one said it to my face, but I felt that there was a lot of like suspicion and like what's going on here. And we had, the first time I had both groups come together, I call it Blindy. Thank you very much. Blindy.
Lindy.
Yeah. And so we had our first Blindy retreat last year and it was kind of awkward and weird. But, it was good and kind of loosened up by the end of it. It was down in Nashville at Harder Truth, plug for local businesses. And then this year we just had it this past weekend. We had it at Bradford Woods. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's an IU kind of facility. It's like summer camp, you know?
Summer camp vibes.
Yeah.
No, it
The
is.
boats and cabins and
Yeah, all of that. No, they,
The
at
Blindy
one
retreat.
point people
The
went
Blindy
hiking or they went, shooting arrows,
Yeah.
archery. I'm telling you, man, it's like Boy Scouts, totally. But Blindy was there. We did Blindy retreat. And people, when they saw each other, are just like, oh my God, JoJo, I haven't seen you. Hug, hug. And it was like completely different,
Yeah.
what a difference, that the
Yeah.
year makes. I was like breaking out in goosebumps. And I'm like, my chickens.
The two sides of my family.
Yeah.
It's just like it's so interesting to hear like the relationship that the faculty is like building alongside like the administration, and just like on the student side and the student perspective. I think honestly it's just been a bunch of confusion, and I
Sure.
think maybe that's where that suspicion came from.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could see that. I
And-
could see that.
Especially like I know there's like a bunch of student groups at both campuses that are like sort of similar. So I think in Bloomington there's a women in computing club.
That's
And
right.
up here we have women in tech.
Right.
So and I know like a bunch of other clubs kind of do that thing where they collaborate with similar clubs at different schools.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another really good opportunity.
Yeah, and like siblings, maybe we won't always get along. Maybe there'll be jealousies that,
Yeah.
they have a football stadium. Why can't we have a football stadium?
Yeah. One thing I did want to ask about, like I've seen the video tour of Luddy Hall. but
Yeah.
Just describe for us and all of our Indianapolis people how amazing the building is.
Well, I mean, so it's a newish building, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of glass.
Yeah.
So you walk in, it's similar to here where you walk in and into the lobby and, you see like the stairway that goes up the middle. Only imagine instead of there being a lot of blonde wood and
Limestone.
it's not limestone, it's like terrazzo or granite or something, some kind of a rock, right? So instead of there being a lot of wood and rock, there's a lot of glass and stainless steel. And on either side, and the other difference is that instead of it just going up one floor, it goes up 4 floors, the staircase. It's a pretty staircase.
Yeah.
And on either side, there are like these little glassed-in rooms, and they call them ice cubes,
Yes. I remember
because
that. Yeah.
informatics, computing, and engineering, ice, get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question too, I guess that we get a lot as ambassadors, is the one name that we have in our school, but that is not in our school yet in quotation marks. And I want to know what your input
engineering?
is. Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing. You all do engineering. You already have. You've been doing engineering from the beginning, because if you think about what do engineers do? Just tell me, what do they do? I'm asking.
Search up the Google, please. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like they create and they innovate.
Okay.
That's what I think
And design.
of an engineer and
Yeah,
design.
Design.
I think of Lego builders whenever I think of engineering.
Okay. So, they build stuff, they design stuff, they create stuff. What do y'all do?
Yes.
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 I think that's the most perfect answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
There's elements of that.
yeah, no,
For sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. You guys are already engineers. Now, we don't have an engineering degree here yet. I very much hope that there will
Yeah.
be in short order. Can we please just establish the computer science department first? I mean, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we
Yeah.
do that
a
first?
lot of work.
Yeah, let's
lot of
just do
work.
that, okay? And then let's talk about the next. But we have some
Yeah.
things in mind. We have some things.
Yeah, just the fact that the curriculum was created that fast with alongside faculty, administration changes, it's kind of crazy to think how quickly that was done. And I feel like that really isn't seen that very
Yeah.
common in higher ed. So it's like, especially now, like giving tours and stuff, I feel like one of the things that I usually point out when somebody's talking about engineering at the school, some of the job titles that our students are getting after they graduate aren't necessarily tied to their major. Some
Right,
people,
exactly.
especially like computer science now being introduced, people are getting jobs as software engineers, data engineers if they're in data
Exactly,
science. So it's
exactly.
like,
Right. I mean, so
Yeah.
let's not get too caught up on labels. Now, there are some
Yeah.
times when labels are important, like when you have to deal with accreditation, and if you want certain kinds of jobs, they want to make sure that you have certain kinds of expertise. So from that point of view, there might be reasons why you want to have like an engineering degree.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you, you all are doing engineering already.
We're podcast
And-
engineers.
Sorry?
Yes.
We're podcast engineers.
Podcast engineers. There you go. And we're also working on we've got our eye on the next thing, and we've got plans for new things, and in the process of getting permission to hire more faculty in specific areas and figuring out where are we going to put these people because we're pretty full already, and where are we going to get those facilities? Because the good thing about being in informatics and computer science, I mean the lab requirements are pretty low, right? No fume hoods. You don't need any wet, don't deal with chemicals
Yeah.
all that often, right? And so
Goggles.
if we're going to be getting into different kinds of engineering that involve high power lasers or, wet labs or fume hoods, then that's a whole other different
thing.
infrastructure. That's going to take some time to pull together. But we're, it's already high on our mind, and, we've got plans.
Awesome.
I think the computer science department is similarly ambitious to the vision for IU Indianapolis. And I love it every time there's a press release or an email that comes out about IUI, and it features the Luddy School.
I know.
And it's just great to see that because we're a small school on this campus.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have our name more out there and be more recognized
I
for what we
think
have.
now with the split that we're the ones who are, I would say, getting most from it.
Oh yeah.
I think it's definitely bringing name to our school as what identity that IUI is planning on going forward with, and their biggest one was technology, as they were talking about it, which I feel like it was amazing, just bring out our name and to just promoting our name a lot throughout this entire split.
Yeah. I mean, it just comes with more funding, more resources. And I think that's especially with the one school, one vision, that's kind of how I've interpreted it, as I think it's just a chance for new forms of collaboration to be done intercampus, and I think
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing.
I kind of see
it is a beautiful thing.
I kind of see it as a Apple ecosystem mostly.
Apple ecosystem.
That's how I've
so
been
interesting.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Hold on.
Whenever I talk about, what's the difference between, IU's computer science and Purdue's computer science now coming forward, I feel like it's we get more as a IU computer science as we get more chances of, double majoring and, just adding more as specializations, game development and game design through MAS. It's that we can get more out of it, just like a Apple AirPods, having more connection and more connectivity with an iPhone than it does with an Android. I think it's kind of like a ecosystem of that sort. And, students get more opportunities in our school than through what they can in Purdue, which...
Yeah, so that's an interesting analogy, and I get, I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, if you compare Windows to Mac, I mean, so Windows, that's for the serious people, and Mac is for, it's pretty to look at, but it's also an excellent machine, right?
Yeah.
The latest, the latest laptops are amazing.
Oh, amazing.
Right? And so that's
Love them.
Wow.
right.
M1s,
So
M2s.
good.
Ever
Yeah.
since they did their Apple M1s, I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what we're going to be like, right? Because we want to be all about, not only beautiful, usable, humane, and technically excellent, right? That's us.
Yeah.
That's us. Other schools could be DOS,
Yeah.
Windows.
HP.
You got you.
Hey, this
you
is an
do you.
HP laptop.
Oh, sorry. Switch to
okay.
Apple.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that there's a lot of different ways to be.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's where we're gonna be. That's where we are.
Yeah, I think that's where we're heading to, and I think that's
Yeah. And I think like a competition is good. I think it pushes both schools to,
absolutely.
like
Who
push
are we
it.
talking about right now? Competition between whom now?
Honestly, between IU and Purdue. I
Yeah.
mean, the
Yeah.
split, that's
I think
kind
that
of the
that's
way
a
the
big part
students.
of the realignment.
yeah.
Yeah.
The realignment, like
Giving both schools
Competition.
more room to grow.
and more
I
room
think,
to grow.
Yeah.
is how it's
No,
going.
and
I mean-
competition is good, right?
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, competition creates
Yeah.
innovation. I mean, without like Apple and Samsung, Apple and Android, I don't think there would have been like the technology that we have today.
Yeah. And especially like
it's a
with,
good thing.
with
It's
higher
a good
ed
thing.
and the state of Indiana, like really wanting to keep our tech talent here. And like, I always love like looking at the reports, and because I'm more of a reader and writer, if anything.
I'm more of a podcast
So.
listener.
Yeah. But yeah.
So to wrap up, could you offer any advice or inspiration for Luddy Indianapolis students who are looking to get out there into the world?
Try everything. Take advantage of any opportunity that comes to you, even if you don't think that it's going to be all that interesting, because you just don't know. Like when I was interviewing for this job, when I was looking at this job, I was like, I'm not really in an information school. They're not going to want me. And my husband was just like, you know what? Do it anyway. If nothing else, you'll meet new people. You'll find new opportunities, and who knows what's going to happen. And look what happened. I have this really incredible job, really making a huge difference. And I'm not saying that every time you take a risk, it's going to turn out like that. It will often fail, but failure is so good. And, unfortunately in our society, we've gotten to the point where people are afraid of failing. And I think that's really a shame, because if you don't put yourself out there, you may not find what you love, but at least you'll figure out what you don't love. And that is really important. So, take advantage of as many things as you can. Don't be afraid to fail. Brush yourself off and try the next thing. It's really the best thing I can say.
Awesome. All right.
Don't
Thank
be
you
a Luddite.
Be a Luddy.
Be a Luddian.
Luddy.
Be our Luddy buddy.
Be a Luddy buddy. All right. Thank you so much, Joanna. It's been really
Thank you.
amazing having you here.
My
Really
pleasure.
inspirational.
Thank you. My pleasure, truly.
Yeah, I think it opens more opportunities of what students can expect out of Luddy. And I think it could give all of us hope in the whole merger. So yeah, thank you so much for everything.
It was my pleasure anytime.
All right. Thank you guys for
you.
watching. It's been great. We'll see you in the next podcast.
Make sure to follow our Instagram at Coffee Computers IUI.
And if you want to join the club, you can look us up on the spot and join our Discord as well.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.